All right, our workshop will come to order now. I think everybody's seated. It shows time 5:33, so we have a workshop with the posted agenda items 1, 2, and 3, discussion of our budget for fiscal year 2022, discussion of American Rescue Plan funds, and this says discussion of other items. I'm not sure what the other items are.
I think it just leaves it open if there was anything else we wanted to talk about.
Mayor, there was a grant we had put in for the senior services. That's everybody might have got that in their packet too. I can just mention that or just a bit. That's the only other thing I knew of.
Edith brought that up this afternoon.
Yeah, that was
And
kind
she
of
said
late, but I mean, we don't
she
have
got
to if you don't want
Tom
to.
come talk about it.
Tom, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Tom's gonna be on 5310 grant. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it was applied for last fall through CARE, and we got it, it was just another vehicle for the seniors. We just found out the other day that they were gonna order us another bus, not a van. So we're trying to see if we get that changed out, something Jim thought we needed. Which
Something
they,
a little smaller, is what we was.
yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be any problem, because even if we order the bus, they have to special order it. Plus also the fact that we gotta come up with between $8,000 and $10,000 out of some money to pay for it, and we needed to make sure that got put in the budget. Our percentage is 75-25, I think,
That's the 80/20.
80-20.
And so if you look at that, email that Edith printed off, it gives you the 88 accessible minivan price, the 7-passenger 88 accessible van price, and then 12 plus 2 wheelchair bus. And what the 1% the city would pay.
When we started looking into this, we were trying to get the same minivan we had, but the entrance for the handicap is through the back of the van.
Is that the 7 passengers? Is that the,
I think it's a bigger van.
so that one's 49,000, between 49 to 51,000, and you'll see the two figures out to the side, 9,800 and the 10,000 that the city would pay.
Monica over at South Alabama Regional Planning would have to redo the contract that she sent for us to sign.
Right, I have the original contract.
Not a
They
big-
also said that, Edith said it would take 6 to 7 months to get the vehicle. That if we went ahead and went with the bus, it should be here sooner, because they had ordered that.
I didn't know if they had ordered it or not.
I do believe they said they ordered it. I'll know. I mean, either one, be lucky to get.
Yeah.
But a bigger discussion was, do we need another bus? And Mark, you had one time commented, don't want to drive that big bus around with one person in it all the time. Gas mileage eating us alive. And the van was a lot better, maneuverable, and hold the same amount of people. But that's y'all's call.
Do you have to have a CDL for the bus?
No.
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 I think anything under 12 passengers, maybe.
Both of us would, either one would probably need to update our training on the tie downs and everything else, because that stuff.
There was some of those classes originally, yes.
All right. We got time to talk about that. I didn't know, that's not, that's fine. So y'all want to move back up to item number 1, discussion of budget. So I gotta put together some numbers for some of the account balances.
That's your trial balance, the account balance on all the bank accounts as of September 30th. That's what's been paid, bank statements balance, et cetera, as of September 30th. Of course, Edith has some bills, she'll be accruing, but it should be pretty
everybody had a chance to look over this trial balance fund Heather's put together for us?
You want to know if we looked over it? I looked over it.
Anything you'd like to comment on regarding?
No, sir. Is there anything else, anything that you want us to look at? Specifically?
I'd like to look at the account balances we got. They look, I think, shows us where we stand, and what we got in the bank. That's one of the things we'd asked about, isn't it? That we wanted to know where we stood toward the end of the fiscal year.
I'm not sure.
Hey, Mayor,
With our last,
Mayor, I'd like to come up there and speak just a second. Who have you seen in a public meeting eating a damn sandwich? I mean, this is pitiful. This is supposed to be a good organization, and you got somebody up there that ain't paying no attention, just like Jason up there had that little buddy up there.
We used to eat meals before we went live, but thank you for, do you want a bite?
Hey, Allison.
Do you want a bite of my sandwich?
Talking about my son being here?
hey, hold on.
Call order,
Hey,
Mayor.
Hey, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kane,
Hey, this ain't,
this is gonna have to, there can't be any more before we recognize anybody from the back, okay? All right, well, we're up here to discuss the budget tonight and try to come to something.
I'm hungry. I've been working all day, just like y'all, working all day.
Okay,
But thank you.
No, you welcome.
okay, let's try to get back on the topic here of the budget. At our last meeting, we got pretty close to balancing the budget, and I thought our intent tonight was to come in and try to resolve the little bit of difference that we had, and that's where I'd like for us to get back to, so. I think the other night we discussed our revenues, our ad valorem was increasing that. If we increased it to the amount that was needed,
I got some clarification from the county on that,
yes, sir.
and I dropped it back down. There was because that number that we had given was the total amount, and that included the school board's millage plus the cities.
So we divided that
So-
out, right?
It went back down to 290.
That's- Saw we lowered that back, so.
Jason, where was you talking?
It's on that first paragraph or the first block. The ad valorem tax
Oh, okay.
proposed at 290.
I see it now.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
By doing that, that took your deficit to 62,391. That's where it sits.
Well, in order to balance the budget, which we have to do in order to present the budget, I think we're getting pretty close. Is there any ideas any of you have where we can increase any revenues or show any additional money, or else cut any places? I mean, we have the right, probably, at the best point would be at the 6-month mark when we do a financial, which is required by law, to adjust out anything we may have.
What's the difference on the Jason and that was?
62,391.
62,000.
Did that, did y'all decide if you wanted to take out the municipal dinner and the, employee safety dinner, all that stuff? And then I made it, a lot. It was discussed. I was still in there.
Well, on the dinner that we've talked about, the participation had gone down, and then with COVID, it further had decreased, and a lot of people didn't even show up last year. So I'm okay if we want to go ahead and, just revisit. Is it even worth trying to have it if we're not going to have a participation on the employee dinner? Because it's gotten too big, we can't have all the board members from all the boards and all the employees, so it's going to require that we go to 2 dinners if we're going to do it. But like Heather said, we're only probably talking a couple $1,000. It's not going to clear the budget up there. And as far as the municipal dinner goes, I have long said that I wish we would consider going back to that like every other month instead of having it, because even that, I mean, it's not like it used to be where there was participation from all of the cities in the county throughout the counties, and it just seemed like to me I'd rather have 4 or 5 municipal dinners a year, and they'd be well attended, and something that we have a topic that's related to everybody in the county that we can discuss, instead of these smaller, ones that have just not 50, 60 people.
I can give you the count. I can pull this up, and I've got the attendance from last year and then what previous meetings have been.
Right, but I'm just saying that I don't think it's fair that you have 4 or 5 of the cities that participate and do it every year, and you have 3 or 4 of them that's not hosting it anymore or participating.
Like I've said before, that would be up to you guys. That's not up to me. So the calendar was approved October a year ago for who all was going to host. So if you don't want to do it next year, I guess, because our month is next month.
It's in November, right.
Satsuma always did November, because that's when they, inducted all the officers here.
Yeah, that is
For-
the
for
installation
y'all.
of the new officers.
So we need to decide, so y'all, if we don't do it.
Well, we can do it this year, but I would like to bring it up to the group. I mean, groups that don't even host it anymore. I mean, I'm not sure why they, so. But like I said,
It's 10 groups host. The only months they don't host is May, when there's convention, and then December, when it's SARPC that hosts their event, Point Clear.
well, since we're going to go ahead and host in November of this year, we can move past that. But as far as employee dinner, spending any real money on it for, whatever y'all think on that.
Can we have a catered meal for each shift that would come? And that way they can do it in their department at their convenience, like, and plan a day. They do that at our work, you know, they'll put it on the shift, like on a weekend or something where, and I know these guys will probably want it during the week, but where it's kind of more relaxed and not as formal. They might enjoy that more. I don't know.
On the revenue, I did speak with Chief Hammond and a couple of the council members from Creola regarding them working with us in the dispatch. I was assured that they have no plans to try to stop that, and that they will pay for that, and that they will give us several months' notice if, in fact, that was to ever be an issue. Could we show that as any revenue for them paying for a couple of the dispatchers? That can make up a pretty significant amount of our shortfall.
Yes, sir, I would definitely think so.
That we might even get it right there, two of them.
The preliminary agreement that Chief Hammond and I had worked out was they would fund 2 positions.
So you're looking at
Probably.
45?
Well, I would say probably with the benefits and everything, you're looking at closer to 60.
So we're gonna add them to our payroll and then they're gonna fund it?
Well, we haven't worked out the finer details of it. Like I said, it was just kind of a preliminary discussion at this point. But that would be the direction that I would suggest that we go, is that we have them on our payroll and Creola just reimburse us for those 2 positions.
Let me work it even out.
It would be an in and out, but I mean, it would be a source of the revenue if it's something we're already paying, though.
But then you would have to increase your salary and benefits, because we don't
Not
have
if we-
those people in there.
Are you,
We couldn't just let Creola pay their people and we pay ours, but that just reduces what we're paying out. That'd be the easiest, is they stay on Creola's payroll.
We're already running one less position because they are providing 1 dispatcher currently. So
That'd just reduce our labor costs.
the idea was, and what I had hoped for, was that we still fund 3 positions from our end, and if they would fund 2, that would allow us to have a full-time administrative assistant / records clerk, which we desperately need. So if we do go with the plan, we could eliminate 1 position from the salaries and benefit expenditures.
That was just something I was thinking about, that if we could show some money there, and that, if that's a,
That'd be a good chunk right there.
move us closer. And everything else appears to be going pretty close to what we're.
On this communications that was in your department for the dispatch, having the radios that are, sorry. So there hasn't been a rise in gun violence resulting from the pandemic, has there?
In
'Cause-
in Satsuma?
I don't know, because you can use the Rescue Act funds for technology and equipment to allow law enforcement to more efficiently and effectively respond to the rise in gun violence resulting from the pandemic. Must be related and reasonably proportional. No.
Right.
Okay.
Thank goodness, I don't think we have
No,
gun
ma'am.
violence to a degree that's going to make us qualify for that.
Okay, well, that takes care of two things. And I saw that part, I was like, yeah.
Jason, the roll-off fees, you know, we talked about lowering them a little bit. Did you do that? Did we recalculate that? You know, that would help a little bit. We might could take some of that off,
We plugged it in at 40.
40 and, you know, was 35, so.
So 40, if you went down a quarter on that 25%, because they're gonna go down 50%. So if you went down a quarter of that, 10,000 to 30, 32, somewhere in there.
From the 40? I mean, that'd help, you know, 8, 10,000 might, you know.
That is gonna change.
What y'all wanted at?
What's it at now, 40?
40.
32?
That and then the difference in the other, I mean, I don't see why that wouldn't be about close enough to quit looking at it.
Well, we gotta get 62,391. What did we agree that we could increase? I really feel like our building permits will increase a little bit next year. If we could show some increased revenue from Creole in that line, if we could put a couple thousand more in building permits, and hopefully the economy will straighten out. I don't,
What you want to bump building permits to? 20?
well, you had it at
15?
15, so I was gonna say at least 18, and that'd be 3,000, and I think that's really achievable.
Building permits up from 15 to 18. The revenue column.
What can we show for Creole for our revenue? Did y'all come up with what you think would be?
I don't have it broke down by individual employee. I would ballpark it at 60,000 for two positions, and I'm thinking kind of conservative on that. Because you're looking at probably 28,000 in actual salary plus all the fringe benefits equaling about 30,000 per. So if you want to increase Creola revenue to 60,000 and then reduce our salary line item by 30,000, I think that would be a safe estimate.
Well, we picked up 8, so from reducing the roll-offs, so that's gonna take it to 54,391 that we were down.
So you're going to show the,
And permits at 3, so if we just, then
I'll
all you
show
have to
you.
show it is 51,391.
That's 11,000 then.
Actually, I'm sorry, Jason, I went backwards on my math. If we reduce one position in our budget, but they're providing two, we're actually going to have to increase the salary line item unless Creola pays it, but then your revenue from Creola is going to be zero if they continue to pay the salaries. Am I making any sense?
yeah, that's why I haven't done anything with it yet.
Okay.
That's why we're looking at that.
Yeah,
If they were going to just pay you and you use the dispatchers you have now, we could show that as revenue.
well, I think you could show, if you wanted to just do it the way that I had suggested, if you want to increase the revenue to 60,000, but also increase the salary to 30,000. I mean, it's a net gain of 30.
Increase your salaries by 30?
Yes, sir.
All right, give me a minute on that.
Creola pays
So you
theirs,
increase
just
salaries
reduce
of 30 and then do a revenue of 60.
Right.
So that'll give you 30, extra.
That'd give us
West Harvard
30.
shaved off 11, so that'll be 41,000.
We're gonna put this in on the police column there.
Okay.
We got 20,000
Easy
more
way,
down.
just take it out of labor to police, 30 grand.
Yeah, if you reduce the labor by 30, you won't be able to show the revenue though.
Right.
So
Oh,
it's,
If they keep paying their own, that base would be what it would be.
yes, sir.
All right, so I've added a line under the police block for Creola dispatch funds for $60,000. So we go into your tab, and your salaries were 880.91. What do we need to do there?
I would
Drop it by
say,
30?
well, if you want to go through all the formula math of figuring out the FICA and the retirement, or do you just want to throw 30 in salary to make it easy?
For tonight's purpose, I believe it's gonna be easier just to use the round numbers to 30, because I mean, calculating that all, it's gonna take us a little while. Got that now, Jason?
Yeah.
Where are we at now? On the-
$23,389.
Sure, if it's okay with the council, we hadn't really planned to open the floor tonight, but go ahead. If it's some way that you can help recommend a cost reduction or an increase in revenue, you're welcome to speak.
On the special events, if you're not gonna have that for this for dinner, you can take about $5,500 off of that. And the employees' dinner.
We already spoke about the employee dinner, the municipal dinner, I think we agreed, we're in October the 12th, and we're supposed to host next month. It'll probably be late to back out right now, but
I thought we stayed within a budget.
I know we got reserve fund, and I want to keep that, but what if we move that from 25 down to 20? That'd give us another 5 right there, so.
Yeah, that's something that we've had in here for the last few years. And that's all has always been dependent upon the city finishing in the black, is thus putting that money in there.
Right.
I think we've got, 75,000 or so, yeah.
Yeah, but we also did that when we didn't have the funds in all these accounts too. So now that we have some liquid cash, I don't think maybe we could reduce it 5 to 10,000, and that puts us pretty close to, I don't want to take it down to nothing, but if we did take it down to 10,000. All these appropriations, that's, well over $250,000 there.
You went down to, drop it down to 10, you'll be at 83, 89.
That school board, we've been doing that since the school went into existence, the school board. 9,000 appropriation. So reserve down to 10?
If you drop the reserve down to 10, that makes your difference right now, 83, 89.
All right, if y'all can figure out a way to get 8,300 in revenue or cut or a combination of both, we're gonna be,
Jason, police budget, 560-70-02, reserve officer expenses. Go ahead and zero that out. It's not much, but to give you 1,000, and we'll absorb any expenses on the reserve officers in the regular line items above.
All righty. 73.89.
Could we afford just to take like $2,000 out of overtime out of each department?
That's,
I can't afford to cut the overtime.
I ain't talking about much.
I can't afford to cut, I'm over budget this year already.
Oh, I was looking, I thought you was about 600 or 700. That's the reason I said maybe we could cut that line item a little.
I'm over budget this year already.
let's just take a minute and scan through the budget and everybody look, and got the department heads over there.
Hey, you had 55 there.
yeah.
Computer expenses make it go down when some departments, if you got anything.
Need to look and see where we're at this year before we. Think there's anything we can get there different, I mean, I wish we could, but,
utilities too, I don't have my notes on that.
16. When, if you look at your, trial balance sheet on Department 317, under oil production, you did?
That's what it was this year.
Yep.
And vehicle repairs was 12 last year.
What was you saying on oil production?
There's 29,000 in that, and we budgeted 15 for the next year. If you think they'll pump some more, $7,000 more oil, we can bump that.
Well, let's hope, while we're doing that, let's hope that we can attract some new business in town. Would be
We got utilities probably back, I would be scared to go, maybe 13 or 13.5. It just depends on how cold of a winter we have with the gas.
Yeah.
Utilities are projected to go up this year. What's your
I didn't, I'm looking at last year's where we were at the end of September, and I was pretty good. I mean, October, so I was pretty good.
What number were you at?
On utilities, I'm at 30%,
Oh, you dropped yours.
Yeah.
so that's why I say I can drop. So I feel comfortable going to 13.5 with that, Jason. If you want to round 13, I'm good with that.
when we look at it, we spent a little bit of time at the last meeting trying to get these pretty close, we thought, so, and let's don't,
Well, I'm just scared though, I'm trying to hit the budget, so I don't want to try and go too much and then, we run into a bigger expense with some utilities there.
You had 18,000 last year on your budget, and if you're at, what number?
I have about 5,000 left as of October. I mean, yeah,
September?
of 8/31, I had right at 5,000 left.
You probably don't wanna drop it 30,000 then.
I'm sorry, 10/1. 10, no, wait a minute, yeah, 8/31.
Crystal, on contract labor, we got 20,000 in there. If I'm reading this right, we spent 8,000 last year, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Could we cut that a couple of $1,000?
We've also got bridge repairs that have got to be done this coming year. I'm not sure where that's going to come in at or where I can actually pull that from. That's why I did not mess with that, and that's what we use for county help as well.
Roof repairs should be under capitals, I would think, if there should be. I'm just saying,
I don't
no
know on
more
that.
we spend, I wonder if we take a couple of grand, that might 18 instead of 20.
Bridge.
Bridge. We got-
you talking about that railing over there? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm
That
sorry,
railing
sir?
they've told us we gotta raise, is that the repair that you were referring to?
The ones when we had the bridge inspections this past year, those repairs.
Guardrails.
Yes, sir, the guardrails, and then we had some of the other miscellaneous repairs. That's why I haven't messed with it.
I'll go back to 13.5. Listen, I don't wanna go no lower than that.
Aye.
You may be able to drop some of the salaries, like in the positions that aren't filled yet. You know, if you won't fill them till January, February, that'll cut, I mean, you're not using it, so you could cut it down a certain percentage based on that, I mean. Section, what are we talking about?
49,536.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Your building inspector salary. Got it right now at 49,536, which is J on the personnel board, inspector 2.
So midway.
Yep.
So you could probably drop that up. I'll say your bridge work come out of foresight money. What it? Foresight. I wasn't sure.
Be part of the Rebuild Alabama Fund?
You do the bridge?
Just have to understand though, if we do find somebody here pretty quick, that's not gonna,
I wouldn't want to take much out of
Happen.
that.
Now, I was gonna,
Might take
if I did,
month or
we'd
two
made
at the very
like
most.
2 months. So it'd be 4128 times 2. Be 8256, and they could start in January.
Yeah, by the time you get all the paperwork in there,
That'll do it, if that's what you wanna do.
It's not really what I want to do, is cut. I would like to find a way to increase our revenues, but I think from what I see, we're pretty much in line with what we anticipated, so unless y'all seeing something I don't. So is that what we needed to take out to make us,
And now you got a surplus of 3367
let's put that back in the building there,
back in that salary.
right?
yeah.
adjust your FICA and all that too. on
It did,
It did.
yeah.
You know, fine.
One second. Put the salary at 45,273 and you're 87 cents off. Think we can figure that one out.
Yeah.
Got it. Which one?
22,
All right, so,
revenue and expenses. That's your balance.
yeah, you want the grand total or the general fund? The grand to be 6,692,057.
Say that one more time, Jason.
6,692,057.
Well, is there any other questions or any? Everybody live with what we've discussed in these last few meetings?
Sounds good to me. I'm ready to move on.
All right, well, we'll finalize this and we'll put this add it to the agenda for the next council meeting. Be balanced at the set amount, but let's try to make sure we got it so everybody can look over it and there's no
We'll get it printed and bound and vote.
rehashing or anything else at the meeting. We spent a lot of time on that, so appreciate the work on that for y'all. Second item on the agenda tonight is discussion of the American Rescue Plan. I think everybody received a packet of information at the last council meeting. It was quite lengthy. Looks like it was 42 pages of information here that we've received. Regarding the legalities of the spending the money and what it can be spent on and et cetera.
Mayor, I did ask Kara if she could attend. She had a meeting in another city, so she was not able to attend this week on American Rescue Plan.
As we discussed last night in the Water Board, I have asked Kara to try to pursue some of the grants that we understand are available to the cities now to help with programs, things that have been related to the, I guess, the grants that's been available since the coronavirus funds and those things have come about. So we keep hearing that there's a lot of money possibly available for infrastructure, and but you almost need somebody that can track it, that does that all the time, because it's that's what it is, a grant person to pursue it. So I did discuss with her salary a little bit, and I did mention this to y'all the other night. Obviously, if she finds some things that may be good for our city, that, you know, her costs may go up a little bit pursuing multiple grants at one time, and I told her that I really didn't feel that if we have a return, a positive return on the money, that there would be any objection from anyone to increasing those fees. Actually, I think the fee we're paying her is the same thing we paid her roughly 15 years ago when she first came up here. So I don't think that'll be a problem. All right, well, if y'all seen or had a chance to read over it, it's quite lengthy. It gives a ton of different things that the money could be used for. I think sometimes it gives you rules that have to be followed if we give it to other nonprofits or something that may fall within the city, or I think some of these discussed hospitals and just a bunch of things that really wouldn't pertain to us. I think I read in here regarding some perhaps school ventilation, or if we have senior buildings for that kind of stuff, but I don't know of us really, any of us discussing any of those topics. So
I believe the school got a large sum of money for things like that. They have their own separate pot.
well, in next year's budget, we've got some money that we can spend, and I think that we've all got ideas of ways to spend the money and ways that would best improve our city. So with that being said, I'd like to open up the floor to the council and just see what their thoughts are on what we need to do or how the money could best be used for our city.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll talk about the water and sewer project. I think we need to spend, some of the money on that. We've got into this, and we've got a grant that was, over $1 million, but it's just going to bore under the interstate, and then we're going to have a lot of work left after that. But I think that is one area that we can use the money on. I'd like to see us, use some of that money for that.
I also saw where it said using it for the roads that that the pipe goes under. So I guess the repair and fixing of those.
We're
Right.
talking about the Daphne Mobile, they gave both, for 5,000 for each person in the city, and part-time got 2,500. And I think that would be all right. I mean, but if anybody else wanted, just think about it for a minute, see what y'all think.
I know we just got the numbers tonight as far as the full-time workers and the part-time. Appreciate that, getting that information. Now, I can kind of look and, you can add up and see exactly what your number's gonna be, as to what we, gonna pay out, so.
Yes, we've discussed from the get-go employee bonuses being part of that, and we were trying to determine the dates that we wanted to pay, and we wanted to determine what qualified a person as far as full-time, part-time, and so I agree that we do need to figure out exactly what the cost would be for each number we have and who all's eligible. These are all the employees that's listed, so all of these people are still either employed part-time or full-time as of today that you gave us on the list.
On the full-time list, that date is their date of hire. And these are all currently still employed people.
So we have to look at anybody else beside this?
No, so you've got your full-time list and then you got your part-time list.
Are we including the 4 library employees in that also?
Not at the moment.
I don't have their information, so, we don't pay their payroll, so.
I'm just talking about full-time, as far as full-time employees, I think it's 4.
If it's written into the document where we would be able to, I would like to see that happen as well.
I've seen where other cities have paid it. I'm just saying, whatever we do, whatever amount we come to, I'd like them 4 to be included also.
Other cities have
What-
it, other cities haven't. I mean, it's just up to y'all. Some say
That's right.
they want to be their own entity, so you don't pay their payroll, but then you include them in this, so you set a precedence. Do you
Well, I
include
just-
them as their entity or not?
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
in Mobile, everybody to those libraries, they closed. That's why they didn't do anything with their bonus because of that. But at Satsuma, they was closed 1 week, cleaning everything. They get all of the computers, the books and everything. They got it so you can get a little shield. So, yeah, they started back again, so.
Yeah, when the kids were out of school, the library was a place for the internet where they could log on. The mobile bookmobile, instead of people coming to check out books, they could call in and reserve a book, and the book could be delivered to them. So they kept it with a lot of programs, a lot of new virtual learning programs that they receive grants for. And, people other than students come to the library, adults.
Sorry, I will say the water board has called, or not the water board, but the Saturn at the water department has called and said that they only thought it was fair if the library was included, they'd be included.
And I'll say
So
that,
you gotta think about them too, I guess.
again, we don't pay the library salary. That's included in the appropriation that we give to them, and they decide how that is. So if it's written in a way that we could do that,
I've read what other cities have given it,
but
just
do they pay their library
read where some
staff
didn't.
directly?
Huh?
No,
I don't know all that.
because that may be where I don't know if we are able to pay a person that's not employed by the city. I'm not sure how we would do that.
I'm just saying, if it's legal, we need to include them.
I agree with that.
Don't forget, I would like to include our volunteers too.
The who?
Volunteer.
Yeah. Will says part-time.
Paying them.
How many volunteers do you have, actually volunteers in that room? 8?
That kind of comes under the same thing we were just talking about who we pay
Right,
and who we
right.
ain't. I'm all for it, is what I'm saying, but I don't know if what she's talking about the salaries, because I think they all should be included. You know, so.
Well,
So
right.
you have to wade through.
I think, just looking here at a few other, cities, they even adjusted that, some too also, for volunteers.
The volunteer had been coming up, spending time doing it and responding to calls. I mean, he was exposed to it too. So,
But I do think our part-time, we need to figure out how many hours in a 6-month period that you need to work to be considered part-time, you know.
you said there's 8 of those?
I'm looking where some
that
have
include-
very few hours, you know, it says part-time.
Right, I don't think the part-time we're ever gonna pay anything close to what we're paying.
Right.
But if you got 8, Chief Harold, how many do we have in?
6.
So we got 8 volunteer firemen and 6. police. All right, so from what I'm seeing, then we got 39 full-time at the city. We got 14 part-time.
And
We
Mayor,
got-
on that, I'm sorry, on that part-time, if you look at those last 3 people, they were seasonal, that was splash pad, and then the last one, actually worked parks all summer. So,
14 part-time. 14 volunteers total. And then we got, how many is library, how many employees? 4. And the water board has
I think it's 7.
8 or 7 or 8. If that, the new labor that we hired, I thought he made
It
it.
may be 8.
I thought.
So are we gonna get Jay or somebody, how we gonna know if it's legal as far as the water department or to look at that?
there's a section in it, under, I think, 5.2, that says you can pay third party. Do you have that folder, Jason?
I do. So there's a, if you look at that file, it's page 27, third paragraph at the top, says what criteria should recipients use in identifying third-party employers to receive grants for the purpose of providing premium pay to essential employees. Any third-party employers of essential workers are eligible, who employ essential workers in eligible sectors are also eligible for grants to provide premium pay. Selection of third-party employers and contractors who receive grants is at the discretion of the recipient.
But we can do it.
So the city
We can do
can
it.
decide that. And there's a little blurb there about
Yeah.
to ensure that it's fair, you gotta report it a different way, so.
Yeah, it did. I read some of that too. I wasn't quite sure, but some of those bigger cities, I think, metropolitan, like food banks and other things that we just don't have.
Right.
Roughly 30.
I built this spreadsheet today, that we can walk through however y'all wanna do it. One thing Heather and I discussed was the time frame. So, speaking with, Sarah Lynn, what they did was, on their deal was, they ran it September to September, and then anybody hired after March the 1st got half of it. They didn't get the full amount that the other employees got. So if you, so one thing you had to do, you need to set a date range for that. And then the other thing Heather and I did, we talked about, part-time. Everyone considers part-time work, roughly 20 hours. So if you did 20 hours,
Per
at
month,
a,
per month.
well, 20 hour, if you did 20 hours a week, and then you could break that down into a monthly or a quarterly basis, and then you determine from that number how you want to deviate. I think we came up with 240. So,
So the 6-month date range that we listed on part-time, if you take 20 hours a week times the 6 month, no, yes.
4 weeks, and then 6 months.
Right, so that'd be 24, and then you get 480 if you divide that in half, it's the 240.
Looking at your part-time sheet, there's 4 that exceed that 240 hour threshold.
What would you do with the other ones?
That would be, I mean, that would be up to us to, I mean, you
We're
could
talking
give
about doing
them,
volunteer something.
yeah, you could give them something. I mean,
Yeah,
it
that's what
wouldn't.
prorated or something.
If you, I don't know, I'm just
And
throwing
you
it
got
out.
one part-time police officer for 24 hours, 6 months. And I don't think,
No,
I mean,
you know, I was kind of thinking if you'd done 8 hours a week, because a lot of the part-time for police and fire just cover shifts, if I'm not wrong, you know, so if you said 8 hours a week, whatever that would come to, is kind of what I had in mind.
I don't think I have any part-time, it's not working at least 80, 100 hours a month.
Yeah, yours would be fine.
Yours is a little different, they have 24 hours.
Right.
I came up with something, but it did not include, and it will, I suppose, this excludes the 8 water board employees, the 4 library employees, the 8 volunteer fire, and the 6 volunteer police, but it would include them in the 2 options that I'm about to read, and you can either be one or the other. So, part-time employees that worked at least 1 hour, but less than 480 hours between March 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2021, who have not had their employment terminated, receive $3,500. Those part-time employees that worked 480 hours or more, and all employees considered full-time between March 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2021, who have not had their employment terminated, receive $7,000. So my estimate of the nine part-time, or 9 people at the first option and the 44 people at the second option is $339,500. And I think that's not even half of the first payment that we received. And I feel like this amount would show our employees that it was worth waiting for, and that Satsuma is the best place to work, and that we do care. And the fact that we took time to make sure that we covered everybody and didn't just like start throwing money out, I think it shows that we put a lot of thought into it, and that we value our employees, and we appreciate you all being here. So that's what I propose. Because if we lose people, then we won't have anybody to do all the budget work that we have planned.
Could you get a list, like full-time and the part-time? That way we could, look on
You
Tuesday,
got it.
next Tuesday. Because I want to put it to bed.
We got it right here.
You should have this in your packet.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's your list.
Yeah, I've seen that, but there's still more people.
He's saying he don't have the volunteers or the water board or the library or any of all those.
Yeah, if you put those, that way we can vote on Tuesday, because I would like to put this to bed. Everybody, and everybody wants it to, you know, they're waiting. So, that's what I would do.
If y'all agree to those extra people, I can get the list, but, you know.
I think this would include not necessarily people's names, but those who fulfill the requirement of the 2 options that I just said. So, you know, if we forgot somebody in the count, we wouldn't want to do a set dollar amount, because, you know, we would want to add those people that I had not included to my figure, if that makes sense. So if the water board people, the library people, the volunteer, fire, and police whatever criteria they met of those two is what they would be entitled to.
So you said for anybody who's worked 1 hour to 480 hours, we get 3,500.
Just 1 hour?
1 hour, right, that's 1 hour to 480, you get $3,500 bonus.
Well, it would be hard to draw the line, and you would want to make sure that somebody worked at least 1 hour, because I believe there's people.
Somebody will have to vote a whole much more than 1 hour for, I'm gonna vote for anything. I ain't
part-time.
right, that's a little
Well,
bit too
I think
high.
your lowest is
29 hours.
24 hours here. So where do you cut it off? Do you say, hey, you're the one person that you were employed, but we don't want to give you any? I don't know that.
A person that worked 24 hours and they got a $3,500 bonus.
I think this is quite a gift, and Greg Cochran from the league said that this is a once in a multiple lifetime opportunity to do with the money what we're allowed to, and what better way to do that than to put it back into our employees, the people that we value. And yeah, maybe they did work 24 hours, but we appreciate you type
Right,
thing.
well,
And like I said, where do you cut it off?
I think
I don't
we're
know.
splitting hairs right now. I want it to be full-time or part-time, because, we're still beaten with this. You know what I mean? If that makes sense with you.
Sure. That's why I said 1 hour, that would include everybody that worked up to
There's
480.
nobody that's hours like that.
I can't go that,
Well, what about 24? Those that worked 24.
I can go with like 8 hours a week or something like that, part-time, but just 24 hours in 6 months. I think if you're part-time, you work so many hours in a month,
What is your recommendation?
Like I say, I kind of like the 8 hours a week.
What is that?
I hadn't added it up, but I can.
well, I would like, as Mr. Butler has said, I would like for us to have a list of everybody that's full-time that we anticipate giving whatever the maximum amount we agree on is, and then a part-time, if you would like to do that, at so many hours. But I would think a part-time person that works a few of these hours, like some of those people, and then somebody that worked the amount of hours that the firemen worked, knowing that they're responding to medical calls where the actual sick people are, and they're gonna get the same thing. That ain't fair to them. I mean, that's,
I guess for the volunteer part, I don't know exactly who is a volunteer when there's a fire that gets called out, whether it's, just a few hours, they're putting their life on the line for the fire. So there are, some gray areas to figure out, but maybe we do a third option with, a low point to minimum so many hours.
We got somebody that's part-time. All right, in 6 months, this person used 27 hours. So I wouldn't do anything with that. I mean, really, think about it.
You had another that worked 24
In
hours.
6 months,
Well, this was
27 hours.
splash pad worker. So it was,
But
I just feel like this is a blessing that we could give to everybody that worked and volunteered for the city. I mean,
Maybe prorate the part-time, depending.
well, we can discuss, right,
You probably look at that,
Prorate that.
prorating it somehow.
So you take these hours and you got one employee who's part-time who worked almost 1,300 hours in 6 months, and then you got one who worked 27. I mean, how fair
Another
is
one
that
worked
to give them the same
24.
amount?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be only fair to try to prorate
We
it.
could
And
prorate it and say, if you work from 1 to 200, you get $500. If you work 200 to whatever, up to whatever you're determining for part-time, but
I think that's the type of scale you need to come up with.
I would agree.
I think it's a
With
great
you and
thing,
Mr.
but
Butler,
you're gonna
that
have
we
some
need to-
upset people if you give a 1 hour
And you
employee.
should.
And I understand the full-time and the part-time, but after that, the volunteer, it is a big gray area.
1750. That's my low level.
And you gotta make, did all your volunteers actually volunteer?
Right, and I would like to make sure that they've,
Well, we can get a more detailed list, but like I said, if that's the criteria, then whoever would be, and then we could see a total number once we got everybody on the list. So if you want to say, so what are you guys saying? 1 hour to 200 hours? Or 240, that's half of the 480. Y'all want to use that number?
Well, if we start at September 1 of last year, so we're going for 13 months, you know,
And could
I
we
would
do
think it'd
that?
be
Was
more.
it saying like a year? It was like from September to September or March to March? Is that what I read, or can we do
Some
that?
cities
There-
went March
well-
to March.
Uh-huh.
Saraland went September 20 to September 21. And the reason behind that was
That's what Mobile did.
what Mobile did, September to September.
And where was your reasoning there? Wasn't it longer than a year you proposing?
Oh, no, this was just based off of,
Because she said March 1, 2021 to September 30.
where's my other thing?
Okay. Okay.
Hold on, I got it in here somewhere.
So you just gotta get your levels and then
Oh,
we can get you a full list of the other people. But you gotta determine your parameters or you're never gonna get anywhere. Never.
it just said, on this one, whereas the mayor is hereby authorized to make payments to all full-time and part-time employees of the city of Satsuma who work for the city from September, oh wait, no, that's not it. Oh, it's this one up here. Provide funds to the city of Satsuma as a non-entitlement unit used in part to pay each full-time who does not qualify for the 7,000 premium, but who has worked as a full-time employee continuously from March 1st to September 1st. That's where that one came from. And that was where I made the note of, would this be volunteers, question mark, and then part-time worked at least question mark hours per month. So that's how I marked that one up. And we also want to include the chief of police and the fire chief, because those people, I don't know that they fall, does that fall under a full-time employee? So we would need to include them on the list.
If a volunteer does.
Think so.
So basically, we could use the criteria and then plug each person in where they would fit.
I mean, we can do that. I just need to know, once again, you know, what do you wanna do?
You want,
well, full-time that was here, working the 80 hours per pay period, bi-weekly, which is, I think, the way we recorded here,
Right,
for that time. And then
that's what your list is.
part-time, you
Is-
can have a tier 1 and tier 2.
Is Tom included in this? I mean, I know he retired, but he's been here working, I guess, part-time.
We didn't include contract,
I'm asking questions up here, that's what I'm saying.
because some of your contract employees may oversee.
Well, the chief's contract also, and like I say, so if we go do, you know,
But then you're gonna add James and Vicky into it too, then.
I'm asking questions. I mean, this is getting so complicated, I wanna be sure no stones unturned when we're through with this.
I say the more the merrier.
At the right time and went to another municipality at the right time, you might get double whammies.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ought to be paying somebody that's getting paid the bonus from anywhere else, if they've already got it from another municipality.
I agree.
Okay, the first item tonight, we have agreed, we got the budget where we've pretty well agreed and can have that on the agenda. We're going to sit here the rest of the night if we can do something regarding exactly, we've established a full-time, I don't think there's much dispute about that. Is that going to be city employees, the library, and the water board? Is that my understanding? Okay. Then number
So
two,
it'll be 39 plus the 12 right now,
yes, ma'am.
so that'll be your full-time.
And then we're gonna have, the way I'm understanding, is we're gonna have two tiers of part-time, those that worked at least, is it 480 hours? 480 and under, and then the 480 and over. Who did that? And then the volunteers, which would basically just be the police and fire. And the chiefs will have to, I guess, put something in the record, because it does say we have to record and show what we're paying the money to, who worked at least because this is going to be a reduced amount below the other two, but if you can just show that they have, I don't know what hours we have there, but since it will be much less, I'm assuming, then we could say who those are, but we got to name who they are, the volunteers. So we have an exact number and at least some type of, hours that they worked. And I know you got a couple that volunteer for the Christmas parade or the ball games, some of those things.
I can get you the numbers for my department, mayor, I need to know the date range.
Well, the
March of 21 to September,
30th is what she had on for today. I didn't,
March 21 to September 21.
but even that, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's not really right, because there's a lot of employees that's been here since the virus started, and they seem to me like we need to be the ones that get the majority, the ones that've been here a year, not 6 months to me. So I'd almost rather it back up, the start date.
I think you started in the March of 2020,
So,
and then you run that a year.
or even if we did it like Saraland did, or Mobile, and be
Right.
consistent with those cities, September to September.
September to
At least
September
it's
is
a
what
year.
we talked
Yeah, that's-
about, not,
September.
You did that if you look at date of hires,
Right, I see 3 right there that would be
at the bottom.
probably just classified as, part-time,
Part-time, the
over.
volunteer.
or it may maybe, well, one of them would be the bottom, but the other two would be,
Yeah, so the thing that I just read about, to pay each full-time employee who does not qualify for the $7,000 premium payment and who has worked as a full-time employee continuously from March 1 to September 1. That's where that came into play, and that would qualify those folks to get the step down, if we put something in there like that.
if I understand, what we're trying to determine is who's going to be eligible and what category would they be, so we can put a total number together for that.
Yeah, I guess if we picked the September 1 to September 1, and then made that paragraph where if they were a new hire, I guess you would say, were any new hires after,
March. That's what
yes,
they did.
or after September, we'll see. Because what if somebody got hired, did anybody get hired between September 20 and?
I mean, if you look at that, the last two on the full-time list.
Yeah, you'd want to make sure,
August.
you'd want to make sure that we included, I guess, so that would include somebody that worked continuously from March. That would include all the people that had gotten, okay, yeah.
The question is, what Saraland did was anyone hired after March got the reduced rate. March of 2021. So if they've been employed 6 months or less, they got the reduced rate.
So that would take.
that's where that come in.
Okay.
So your last two on that full-time list would be reduced. I mean, you got one that's only been here a month if you consider September.
Okay.
That's why they did that. If you came in after March, you got 6 months. You got the reduced rate.
Sure.
And that's what you gotta decide, what your rates are. Mayor's $7.
Which numbers? The date numbers or okay, September 1, 2020 to September 1, 2021. Or is it 30th, September 30th?
I think they did.
September 1,
And
21.
the sheet y'all gave us, I think, says the 30th. It did, 9/30/21.
Full-time employee full-time employee,
September what? 30th?
which one? September 1 or 30th?
September 1 to September 30th?
Yes, that'd be good.
Okay.
Okay. So if you were employed full-time between September 1, 2020 to September 30th, 2021, that would be considered full-time. And you'll get the, whatever bonus you decide.
$7,000.
We haven't decided on that.
Oh, that's my proposition.
I know you've told us.
Just making sure.
So then, if you worked any time after March, or any time after, that's the 6 months, where you get the 6 months part-time.
Right.
And you would get the reduced, unless you want to do the two-level reduced there, which, makes sense.
So you had written down like 1 hour to 479 hours. But I guess if that was, we'd have to see what,
480 and 480 and above.
Right.
and I guess if we're working with a different time period, it would be different for,
Any combination they've had, I would say it's fine.
Okay.
If they can get the 480, they made it.
I mean, some of your part-time employees may work 40 hours one week and the next week none, but then the next week they work 80. I mean, that's how some of the fire and some of the police are.
well, I wonder, are we opening that time period up for the whole year? Or are we just keeping it at that, evaluating those 6 months?
Well, if you're gonna open it up based on that time frame, we need to, that amount of hours, we need to open that block back up to look at that, I guess.
Yeah, so that's probably going to be a different value as far as the criteria on the hours.
You could run that from September to September.
And what was, I know we came up with that calculation, 480 was a result of 20 hours a week? Is that what it was? Okay, so we could just do that, for the year, I guess.
Right.
52.
Yeah, well, if you want to do it, we did it half, so if you take 4 weeks a month times 6 months, that's 24 weeks at 20 hours.
So 52 weeks at 20 hours a week, it's 1,040 hours.
Because full-time is 28.
Look at you. Like quick math.
And the rest is HR.
And so then you would divide that by 2. So anybody that worked 1 hour to 520 hours could be at the low tier. And then 521
I
to,
don't like that 1 hour. That's the whole part I have with all that, is that 1 hour.
20 hours then. We just need to find out, because let's say if it's a firefighter, he or she is woken up in the middle of the night to come to a burning house and may just serve a few hours. I would hate for that person to be omitted because of, we set it 1 hour lower or higher than what that person had attained.
I think you're volunteer rate's gonna be different than your part-time employee rate, and it should be,
It should
in
be.
my opinion.
Okay.
Kind of left that open to the chiefs, just to put, because if the person comes and volunteers for an hour here or there, it still is a valuable
Right.
service to us, so. And then those just are total volunteers, I guess, that's, is three categories, or how do we want, I mean, we got the full-time first, and that's the main ones we're looking at. And I guess the full-time that haven't been here the full year would be second, and then part-time, or we could classify, if you got part-time at 480 and above, then those that's just been here a short time could get that. At least they are working and they're full-time employees, and that may satisfy a little bit of what you're saying. To reward them for being here now, but,
Sure. I think if we put everybody onto the spreadsheet, kind of like what Jason's talking about, we can do like just, some kind of Excel where we just can hit some numbers in and it'll just pretty much tell us what our bottom line's going to be once we can classify, employee, full-time, part-time, how many hours, and then that could just be like some kind of formula. And then we could just mess with the numbers until the total comes out right or whatever.
well, we could do that. I mean, it's gonna take her some time to get it together. We don't really have time to publish another meeting or workshop or anything between now and Tuesday, so we could have it for pre-council on Tuesday, if y'all would like to do that. But we just gonna have to make sure everybody's here and be busy when we get going on it, because it's gonna take some time.
So for the record, exactly what do you want? I mean, we know the full-time, we've got that, but what about the part-time? The 480 or?
That was what I thought we all agreed
Yeah,
on.
let's
both.
just get all the numbers of the part-time people, and then we'll throw it in the sheet like we did earlier, and then see where it shakes out, and base it on the 480. And, whoever's above that falls into one of these other tiers, and whoever's below it is obviously a different tier, and just go from there and see where you end up.
Okay.
Just determine your number now. You know. Because that'll, to be able to give you a FICA total and everything else, we need to know that. Because you had to put it in the resolution how much FICA is, because you can pay FICA
Yeah.
with this. You can't pay state or anything else with it.
Did anybody want to speak, Mayor? Anybody want to speak in regards to this possibly?
Councilmember Reese is wanting to know if they want to open the floor up for comment. We can, but if we do, it's going to limit any comment to 1 minute. I'm not going
Yes,
to
sir.
stay here and go for a long time. Several of you have attended tonight. If you wish to come up and speak, just state your name and stay on the topic of what we have tonight, which was what we have to do. And just keep your comments to a brief time. Everybody okay with that?
Hi, I'm Patricia Mora. I live at 319 Kitty Court. I work for the city of Satsuma. I have the privilege of working for the city of Satsuma, and I would appreciate to understand what the dollar amount is. That's what we need to know. Because as citizens or as your employees, it would be nice to be able to plan a little bit. Thank you very much. Edith Butler. I reside at 67 Bryce Avenue. On behalf of all of these employees that attended this meeting tonight, I want to tell each and every one of you what a great group we have as employees, and I enjoy working with each and every one of us. We all work hard. We try to do the best that we can, and I think that this little bonus that you're thinking about giving us would be a great help. It would help the morale of every one of us, and we would just greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Jason and Heather, I appreciate all the time that you have put on this budget. I know it's been tremendous, and I appreciate each and every one of you, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
All right.
Don't be shy.
Okay, we've opened the floor up, so
Mayor, basically what we're talking about here, I think, just, looking at other cities, from the full-time to the part-time, it drops half. Is that what we kind of understand, or?
Yes, sir.
Some did, some did not. Mount Vernon did 827 for part-time and 2,500 for full, so what their configuration there was.
I mean, I'm fine with that as far as the, that drop off there. I'm just concerned now as to how we need to figure out past that, as far as those next tiers.
So you did
It's,
full number, part-time half, and then the tier half, a quarter, or half of that.
I'm not for sure when it drops down, past that, as far as what that number might be. But as far as the overall numbers, I mean, I would like to look, because it's gonna, make a difference as far as the price from the 7,000, starting at 7,000. I would like to get maybe 3 different, figures and go down from there.
7,000, 3,500, 1,750.
I'm talking about the top numbers.
Is that
What now?
That's what you're saying, 7,000 for full-time, 35 for part-time tier 1, and
Yes.
then part-time 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Councilman Little's saying he
Think
wants
what-
3 different numbers
I
for the
want 3
max
different
amount.
numbers to start with. As far as the 7,000, I would like to say 5,000 and maybe 3,500.
Okay. So the tiers would be,
You can go down from there. I mean, ever how that,
7, 5, and 3?
I can't do that in my head like you did.
Also, what about employees that's employed but did not work in that time period? Say they were out on for some medical reason other than COVID and stuff. Are we still including that if they weren't working?
I think by law you would have to.
I'm asking, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
You
but
could
see there
have an
again-
employee out on a workman's comp claim that could be indefinite, because it's not his fault that
Well,
accident
yeah,
happened.
I'm just talking about not workman's comp, just regular medical, yeah,
I put on here, all employees considered full-time.
okay.
So, yeah, because that was a question that I had as well. So,
Senior tiers would be 7,000, 3,500, 1,750, or 5,000, 2,500, 1,250, or 3,000, 1,500, 750.
correct. And then as Mr. Butler said, we're going to identify everybody down the list, who it is, everybody who receives the money, and then we'll know where they fall, and then a total number, which is what Mr. Little's saying we need to have, so we can say what we,
We can get that in the next couple of days. We can have it by the end
I
of the
can
week.
get the names of the people tomorrow,
And
and
that's just my opinion now. If y'all want, the different
I
figures,
do-
I'd just like to see a overall, pretty much what we're looking at, is this or this or this,
that's why I was,
Ask me what you've broken it down to, It shouldn't be a problem.
Sounds,
That's what I was thinking, if Jason could do the spreadsheet, and then we just, once we have everybody's information, we could just move that number, like you were saying.
yeah.
Like, 7,006, where do we need to be? Because obviously, we cannot go over what we were given, so. But,
So your reasoning with the 7 was because of the drop in the 5% to 2.5
well,
in the payroll?
yeah, the cost of living, period, is going up more than what their actual raise would be at the 2.5%. So there would already be a shortfall there. So the time that they have waited, and to add with the,
Time they've waited, I thought the county and everybody else have just approved theirs in the last week or two to make payments.
let's see, I don't know, I took the date off of this one.
I think Sarah Lynn
August,
got paid in August.
at the end of August. But I just, no, I think it's been longer than that, and, everybody
And the
is
first-
friends with
first
everybody,
settlement
and,
didn't come till July, so
Right.
I think Sarah Lynn's was August. Mount Vernon's was August.
yeah, I think this one says August 26th, when they signed this.
Before July.
But you'd hate for somebody to leave here and go to another city because it appears that they treat their employees better than we do, and that's my concern. So, like I said earlier, with making it higher than what the area is, that they would say, you know what, they did us right, and they came out and they gave us more than anybody else, and I'm glad about that, and I'll continue to work for the city of Satsuma because they take good care of me. So.
Okay. Mr. Little has made some recommendations that I think that we all agreed with. Mr. Butler also asked for the information to be included. I think we have said what we want to be, how the employees will be classified. It gives us a total number of the city, the library, and the water board, and then the volunteers who have been here during that time. Once we get those numbers together, we'll have some total amounts, and I think that's, as far as the budget goes and where we're at with our money, that's what we need to know.
I mean, just
So-
doing some quick figure, and Mayor, at the 7,000, you're like at 350,000.
Okay. The 5310 senior grant's the next item on the agenda. We already discussed that some. That's really consistent with what we've been doing for several years. So there should be money there available this year since really senior services were not used, a lot of the money wasn't used for our grant because we didn't have those things going on last year. So it may allow some opportunity to do a few things like the vehicle, or perhaps 2 vehicles this year. And so we just need to decide what y'all want to do on that. So obviously, the van is much easier to drive and maneuver. I don't need me to sit here and tell you that. That's for one passenger, but if for some reason we actually got multiple people we were trying to transport every day, we need something that can do multiple people and, or 2 wheelchairs at one time. So just something to think about there.
Mayor, I also wanted to bring up the Union Chapel contract. Jay mentioned that we still haven't finalized anything on that. So we need to think about that, as well as Motor Vegas, where you called. Thought we were in the middle of the budget, but I didn't see it in the budget at this time. You maybe able to do that?
I found it, in that American Rescue Funds, eligible uses, water, sewer, broadband, infrastructure. What types of water and sewer projects are eligible use of funds? And so this says, of course, we'd have to look into it. Under the CWSRF, categories of eligible projects include construction of publicly owned treatment works, non-point source pollution management, National Estuary Program Projects. So National Estuary Program Projects, I do not know what or how, but I don't know, maybe it's a possibility. I highlighted
I
it.
don't see it in the budget, that's for sure.
No, well.
Well, if we
I'm
passed that
saying-
American Rescue Act, we wouldn't have to put it in the budget,
Right,
would we?
right.
So,
You could use
Yeah, we
it
could
for
give
that.
them the money that, yeah, so, but I guess you'd have
If
to.
you're gonna do that, you gotta do it in this resolution,
Oh.
what you're gonna do with these funds.
And I also,
is there any other COVID expenses that we feel like we may have to incur this year?
That's not reality.
Said we could did it for supplies or training or attending things that has affected our local area that, due to the COVID, so.
okay, so I didn't know we had to talk more about how to use the money. Do we not decide that, the balance of it later, or no?
You may be able to, I'll find out, speak with Jay and see.
Because there was also,
You may be able to do a second resolution on
I was gonna say, I don't know what would stop us from
Yeah.
doing a resolution.
because there is a
That means-
vaccine incentive program, which they have that at my work.
You're right, they probably will, because you get the other half of the money, you gotta do
Gotta
it.
figure out what you're gonna do then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I won't bring up all those. I won't bring them all up, but I've highlighted a bunch that we might could do. Not a bunch, just a few.
Well, this, right, those things are kind of going outside of our listed agenda, so,
Yes, sir.
do we have anything else? Does everybody agree?
That's enough.
Okay. Well, thank all of you for attending tonight.
Hey,
Hopefully we
Mayor,
move forward.
I'd like to add something to the agenda for Tuesday night if I can. I'd like for, Mr. Kane to publicly apologize to my 9-year-old son here Tuesday night.
No, I'll do it right now. This is supposed to be a professional organization up here, all the city council and everything. And the other night, I mentioned something to Randy about it. You had your young'un over here crawling all over you.
When was that?
This was, how long ago was it, Randy? I told you about it, and you wasn't with it. And then you got another professional person up here eating, and nobody else is here eating. I mean, you don't do that. Where else you go and see something like that besides Satsuma? But I'm not apologizing to you.
Okay,
You don't-
you don't
you
have to
don't need-
apologize to me.
You
Okay,
don't
hey,
need
gentlemen,
to
You can apologize to my son.
Gentlemen, hey,
Apologize to your son.
Mr. Kane,
Your son wasn't supposed to be up here at a council meeting.
He was in the
Mr.
corner.
Kane, Mr. Kane,
I wasn't talking about that time.
this ain't going anywhere. Mr. Kane, thank you.
Oh, I know.
That's enough.
That's what I
agree.
thought.
Come. Okay, I think we've covered the agenda tonight, so let's reconvene on Tuesday night at our regular meeting. We may need to try to be here a few minutes early. If y'all would like, we can make a 5:30 pre-council to give us a full 90 minutes to discuss this. Do y'all think that would be wise?
What time?
5:30?
Make it 5:30
5:30,
Tuesday,
that'll be
gives us
fine.
90 minutes just to do that. Thank all of you for attending.